So here's a question our firm gets asked all the time. Can one person start a healthcare staffing firm alone, or do you need a team in place from day one? If you have the same question, this is the video for you. I'm going to cover 3 models for starting a nursing agency and healthcare staffing firm, and how in one of these models, you could do it all alone. We help healthcare entrepreneurs start, grow, and sell their companies. Welcome to Passive Workforce. The first model I want to discuss is what I see most often, a 2-person founding team, and how that team should be organized for success. Usually when starting out, the people that we consult, I find that people tend to go with someone that they really trust, whether it's a partner in their relationship or a lifelong friend, or a strong friendship that they have at work, to start one of these companies up. And I think that's a good model to start with, not because it has to be started that way, but because it helps us share some of the responsibility and really makes it clear from the beginning of things who's responsible for what and whether or not that partnership is really going to last and work. With the 2-person model, what I recommend is that one person focus heavily on the business development and administrative side of the company, while the other person works more closely with the workforce and preparing them and getting them into the placement slots themselves. Okay, so there's going to be one person who's all about the numbers and the business of things, and another person who's all about the people. I think that's the best way to start in the beginning. The person who's all about the numbers, who's all about business development, should be comfortable with talking and negotiating with people. They don't have to be like this brilliant salesman or this salesman personality. They just have to be comfortable with rejection and being able to think about variables on the fly. And they need to know what's going on in their company well enough to be able to have that real-time negotiation as it's occurring. Imagine being on the phone with the administrator of a skilled nursing facility, and they're very interested in working with your company, but they want to negotiate on price. Now, we have some tools in our program that help you actually formulate what your rates should be. We have a wonderful spreadsheet that helps you calculate what your rate should be, both on the pay side and on the billing side. And you're in this conversation, and this administrator is telling you that your rate of $60 an hour is too high. They're more comfortable with $55. You have to have somebody who's going to be able to manage that conversation well and be able to kind of either dive into the numbers right on the spot, or be able to do it in their head and not necessarily take that as a rejection. And you have to have somebody in that business development role that's comfortable being told no. In this business, a lot of people are going to tell you, not at this time, we have other agencies, we don't work with agencies. There's going to be a lot of rejection. There's going to be way more rejection than contract opportunities. So whoever is in that seat needs to be comfortable with that. On the other hand, the other side of the business, the cultivating of your talent and getting them ready for placement opportunities, is a role that I think should be also a personable person, but a connector of kind. Someone that really understands people, is good at reading people, who understands people's intentions, and can cultivate that relationship. Because the key to this business is not only how many candidates you attract, but how many you retain. And people who are people are able to do a better job navigating new recruits and employees to build strong relationships with those people, so that those people are connected with the culture of the company and connected with the prosperity of the company. And I think if you have 2 people starting a company and they're splitting their roles in that way, you're in a really good position to succeed. Do me a favor, if you're finding this information helpful, subscribe to the channel and share it with your founding team or the positive people in your life serving as your support system. The second model I want to discuss is a startup model where you're starting with 3 or more team members and a budget to burn. Now, this next model is probably the more uncommon model from what I see, and that is those that are taking the startup approach. Now, if you think about what a startup company is, it's not just a company that is getting started. It's a company that's functioning under a high level of uncertainty. They're going into this new business. They have a plan in place. They have capital in place, and they have a team that's looking to tackle new business and grow aggressively. Most companies don't start this way because they usually don't have the underlying budget to get started. We're talking about $500,000 to $1 million to really power a company that can grow to pretty large to enterprise level in a short period of time, usually within 3 to 5 years, okay? That's the startup mentality. Most of our clients don't come with this mentality. But in order to take this approach, you need a few things. You need capital to burn, and you need highly qualified people that are already experienced and knowledgeable of certain areas of this business. Now, when you're looking at companies that are going to have success scaling, they're going to have key managers in place that are able to build processes, that are able to manage employees who are then later on role players within the organization. So the starting team needs to have somebody who's proficient in human resources and who's proficient in recruiting of staff. And they're going to be able to design all of the human resource infrastructure. Another thing that you're going to have in your startup organization is business development folks. These are direct sales reps and people who are accustomed to managing sales teams, so that you have CRM systems that are well built out, scripting, communication follow-ups, and the infrastructure to really go after a larger market. In the startup world, you might have a $300,000 per year capital burn on just your starting team. And like I said, these are going to be experienced people who are knowledgeable, who are going to be able to hit the ground running. And again, most of our clients are not that. Another thing that you're going to want to have on a startup team is someone who, if they're in the business development chair, has worked in this role before. They've already contracted with nursing facilities, so they know who the players are. They even have the experience and the relationship to say, hey, you know what? If I go to these companies, I established contracts at 30 different skilled nursing facilities at my previous role. I know that I could go back to every single one of these people and negotiate again because I had the relationship. I already negotiated here. That allows that organization to sprint towards growth. Another thing that a startup organization is going to need is a strong leader. Now, that is somebody who really understands business modeling and business infrastructure. So CEO, COO level type of people. And they're going to be really focused on the KPIs, or the key performance indicators. They're going to be focused on the numbers, watching the budget, making sure that the organization are hitting their milestones and making the necessary adjustments. They're going to be the ones who are allocating money to the marketing budget, to the advertisement budget, screening and helping to build this initial team, and potentially raising future rounds of money. Again, this is not the common structure, an exciting one because it's boom or bust. You really are going to have more of an emotional roller coaster, because you could grow really aggressively early on, especially if you're introducing innovative technology, etc. Or you could crash and burn in great glory. I've been in that model and failed before as well. So I understand what it takes, and I understand what the components are. Again, this is not for everybody, and this is not one of those models that you go out alone, because inherently it requires a competent team from day one. The third model is the solo entrepreneur model. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's totally doable, and it's all about how you need to organize yourself to find success. The reason why you started watching this video in the first place is for this model. You're a person, a solo entrepreneur, nobody's willing to partner with you, or you're actually a little anxious about taking on a partner too soon. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you have to understand that you're going to be the master of this business. You're going to have to learn how to wear every single hat, and you're going to have to outsource every single position. So what do I mean by this? So if you're running the show by yourself, you're going to have to be business development. You're going to have to be human resources and recruitment. You're going to have to be the CEO. You're going to have to be the financial person who's handling bookkeeping, who's handling payroll, billing. You're going to be negotiating contracts. You're going to be handling all of the administrative startup, all of the business infrastructure. Everything is going to fall on you. It sounds like a lot, but it's doable. I've done it before as well. So what you have to really do first is get all of the paperwork stuff out of the way, right? Really get down to the policy and procedures, get all the legalities clear, get all the workflow established. Because if you are going to be wearing every single hat and you're participating in creating the infrastructure of the business, by you doing those things, you're going to understand the nuances of each. In our consulting program, whether it's the basic program or the turnkey program where we set everything up for you, we take you along so you see all of those moving parts. How do you negotiate your workers' compensation insurance? What about payroll? What about financing for payroll? How do you go about billing? How do you go about negotiating contracts? All those things we cover in great detail. And if you're by yourself, you're going to need to become a master of these things. So that's why we include you, so that when you're on your own and running this business, you're able to succeed. Now that you know kind of what those parts are, the first step is getting all the logistical stuff down, right? So you need to know how things are working. What are the mechanics of this business? The very next thing that you're going to need to do, and it's going to be helpful if you're already a healthcare professional, is that you're going to need to start building out your core team of employees. So that's going to be yourself, maybe a few friends, maybe a few family members, maybe even a few random people that you recruit from the public. You're going to need a core of like 3 to 5 healthcare professionals that you plan on staffing. Since you're going to be staffing yourself at some point, you could rest assured that you're going to at least satisfy a placement opportunity when it comes up. So if you go ahead and negotiate a contract, let's just say you're an LPN starting out by yourself, and you negotiate a contract at a skilled nursing facility, and they need a nurse starting this weekend, you know that you could place yourself. And what that's going to allow you to do is actually experience the full cycle. What do I mean by the full cycle? You've negotiated a contract, so you're going to know how that goes, and you're going to be comfortable in that world. You're going to place somebody, and that person's going to be yourself. So you're going to know what sort of documentation you need to submit for their personnel record. You're going to know what the onboarding process is in some of the facilities. You're going to go on the floor. You're going to experience what it's like to be an agency nurse. And with all of that experience, you're going to be able to replicate that and do it again with somebody else. Now that you're a little more secure since you've started your business, you've got all the paperwork down, you've got your first contract, you got your first placement. Now you're working, so you know what the time and attendance processes are. You know what the payroll procedure is going to be. You know what the billing cycle is going to be. You're going to feel more comfortable stepping into a role where you place somebody else because you know all the mechanics and you know that you can get it done. And it snowballs slowly but surely. And at some point, you're going to reach a plateau where it's too much work for you to do between running the business, picking up shifts yourself, taking care of your family, whatever else is going on in your life is going to be too much. And the idea is that at the point that it becomes too much for just one person to handle, that you have a few placements and you're making enough money to hire help. The whole thing about starting out by yourself is understanding the business and getting to the financial point where you could start to hire additional resources. And since you've done every single role, you've recruited, so you know HR a little bit better, you've done payroll, you know the financials a little bit better, you know the timing of things better, you know the business development better, you know everything in the business. When it's time to hire that first resource that's going to be taking some of the workload off of you, you're going to know what sort of qualities they need to succeed at that particular job. And you're going to be able to ask them really good questions in their interview so that you're able to determine whether or not they have the skill set to do the job or not. Another thing that you could do once you're starting to grow out your team is work with virtual assistants or outsource staff. That's something that I can help out with. So if you're interested in that, just email us, or you can use the comment section below to say, hey, you know, I'm at the point where I need to hire some overseas staff. We have a partnership with a company where these people are trained and ready to go and work within healthcare staffing firms, so we could connect you with that. But when you're hiring those people, you want to be able to teach them exactly how you approach your business. And since you've created the policies and you've created the business, you should be able to sit them down and train them to do the job as good as you or even better, since they're only focused on a certain aspect. And the last thing that you want to really take into consideration as a solo entrepreneur, when you're starting to kind of build out your team, is you really need to know what makes the money in your organization and what skill set you have that's the most valuable to the organization. Because if you're clearing up your time to now focus on the business, you have some role players there to support. The time that you're spending should be spent on the most lucrative activities in that organization. And the most lucrative activities are going to be either on the recruiting end, and if you're phenomenal at that and that's your strong point, then do that and own that. Or on the business development end, where you're getting more contracts. That's where the money comes from. The placement opportunities or the people that you're placing. You're gonna have to figure out which one of those things that you do really well, so that when your business starts to grow, you own that seat and you own that division. You don't have to do everything. That's a mistake that people make. I still have to have my hands in everything. They're watching the money too close. and they're micromanaging the payroll people because they don't want them to make mistakes. If you need to macromanage your financial people, you need different financial people. That's just it. Because they're organizing things, they're staying on top of things, but the financial team isn't necessarily making more money for your business, especially in a healthcare staffing firm. They're keeping things clean, they're keeping things, down to the penny, but their activities aren't necessarily making you more money. It's the business development and the staff placement that's making you the money. So one of those two things needs to become your home. And as you're building your company and you see what your skill sets are, be honest with yourself and go where you're most valuable, not what has the most status in the organization. Everybody likes to have the little CEO title under their footer, and that's overrated. I hate being a CEO. It's an annoying job. I'd rather just be kind of like a strategist within my own companies than the leader of my companies. That's just me talking honestly. But there's some people who like the vanity of that CEO title. Don't fall into that. Focus on your strengths. Really kill it on your strengths. Outsource your weaknesses. Make sure that you have strong people where you're weak. And that's how you're going to succeed, especially when you're starting out by yourself. If you're ready to get started on your own, visit our website, PassiveWorkforce.com, to download our step-by-step pamphlet or watch this video right here that explains it all.